without further ado then, I thought I'd provide you coverage with a set of resources that you might be interested in coming out of this course to further deepen your knowledge, to tie you in with other individuals with common interests, or to help build background, a deeper background within these topics. One of the resources that's evolving less quickly than it used to, and where Ross might be able to make some comments, is the NIH OBSSR System Science and Health webpage. This is sponsored by the Office of Behavioral Social Science Research, OBSSR, which is one of the offices that works in a cross-institute fashion within the NIH. It's in the Office of the Director and seeks to enhance initiatives that bring behavioral social science research into value and use throughout the NIH. And within this page, you'll find a set of links, some of which are a bit dated now, but which do provide access to genuinely useful resources. And I'll touch on a couple of these resources of particular note. One of them, for those who are faculty or for those who are emerging from a PhD into a postdoctoral phase, may find it interesting to know about some of the funding announcements that are available. This page is, as I say, it's not updated with a frequency with which it used to be, but there are quite a number of opportunities listed here which do remain relevant. You could see some of them having stop dates in 2017, 2016. I would note also that some of these are competitions with special emphasis panels, which helps enhance likelihood that an application will get examined by someone with some background in some area of system science. System science is a diverse area, and it's not a guarantee that if you write an application that has heavy emphasis on agent-based modeling or system dynamics, that it will be reviewed by experts in those particular sub-areas. But it does help enhance the chance that it will be given fair review by someone because they have some background in system science work. A wide variety of different types of calls for applications here, but you can go to this site off of this one in order to learn more. So this is in the link funding announcements and related information. A further link is to videocasts and slide presentations, which include a substantial subset of now somewhat older presentations on system science and health. These are from a wide variety of practitioners. Some of them are in agent-based modeling, some are in system dynamics, some are in social network analysis, but it does provide some informed and substantive sort of commentary on system science and health. Finally, I'm going to highlight this last link here, which is highly relevant and which is a very important resource for people to know about, which is the System Science Listserv. This listserv is maintained by Patty Mabry. I don't know how many of you know Patty. She's been for years a real fixture in sort of promoting awareness, training, and resource availability in system science and health. She's since moved from OBSSR to the Office of Health Promotion and Disease Prevention within the NIH, another cross-institute office under the Office of the Director. And so she's no longer quite as active maintaining system science resources, but she does maintain this listserv. And if you go and you click here, you'll find out information you can write to her and get added to the listserv. Right now, I think it has between 1,000 and 2,000 people on it, and every week in a digest form, or alternatively on a opportunistic basis, whenever a message comes out, you'll get notification via your email of opportunities of interest within system science and health. I subscribe to it. I think probably Ross subscribes and shapes it, and it is a very effective tool for both for disseminating information on system science and health opportunities, but also for being aware of recent resources and events within that area. This is a listserv that Patty does maintain on an active basis, and it's perhaps the single biggest resource that I'd recommend to anyone as far as getting tied in with the system science and health community in the States. Ross, any other comments on the OBSSR scene, since I know that you maintain a position in the OBSSR now? Okay, so I've provided the link to this page elsewhere within this packet, I believe, and I'd refer people to it. One note, just to head off any misunderstandings, this is something Ross mentioned the very first day, but the Institute on System Science and Health here is now unfortunately no longer supported in the NIH. There were a set of changes to funding availability that rendered it impractical to continue to offer. So that opportunity, unfortunately, is no longer current. Okay, let's talk about further training. If you wanted to take the learning from this week further in terms of depth, or further in terms of the project work you've started, what resources are there? Well, one of the opportunities is on the popular MOOC platform, the massively online open course platform Coursera. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Coursera, but Scott Page has a course on model thinking that it has been widely praised for its contents. It is not specific to applications of system science in health. However, it does articulate a lot of content that will help stimulate a deeper appreciation for what we're talking about here, and situate it more broadly within the landscape of techniques for understanding complex systems. So Scott Page's course is highly recommended. It is free, like other Coursera courses, and it's available on an on-demand basis. So you may find it interesting. I believe Kurt back here at the back of the room has been tapping into that course. So you might speak with him about any of the logistics of it. There's a course on ABM by Volker Grimm, who's the one of the sort of grandfathers of ABM in the ecology area. That he teaches at Humboldt State University under the Cal State system. And it's taught in that logo, so it would build on some of the understanding that you've secured here through Ross's presentation on Tuesday. And Volker has published on ABM both at a philosophical level with the notion of pattern-oriented modeling, as well as at a practical level of sort of using these models to understand particular ecology challenges within the pages of Science and other prominent journals. He is a very thoughtful practitioner, and I have heard good things from people who've attended that course, although I've not attended it myself. We do maintain at the U of S boot camp and incubator, and I bold this because it's a big emphasis these days, designed to help deepen appreciation for actually what's required to build up models and to work in teams where modeling is being done, so you can run models, modify them, and extend them with some facility. And we have this incubator portion, which is designed to pair up TAs with with particular people interested in advancing projects for the sake of 6 days. Many people go out of that incubator with a model that speaks to their particular issues, and that's quite a bit further down the road. Some of those models that come out are very interesting indeed, and go on to broader use, publication, etc. Also relevant here, just because it came up a couple times in the courses, is this course on smartphone-based data collection, where we cover the interface with modeling as part of it. And I mentioned that yesterday in response to some questions. We do this as a shortened course, which is attracting considerable interest from around North America right now. I'm further running specific boot camps on particular subtopics of health, such as infant, maternal, mental health service network, social determinants of health, in various areas around the world. I'm offering quite a few in Australia these days, but also in some areas around the States, and some of them are being planned. Many of these events are open to anyone who wants to sign up. On occasion, they are sponsored by particular ministries of health for people within that region, in which case it's not an open invitation thing. The point is, these are specific use models, build up models that are particular to health sub areas. So, some might be communicable disease focused, some might be focused on chronic disease and comorbidities, etc. That's a big emphasis of our work because of the heavy level of demand we're seeing, and because those models are often speak to the participants at a much deeper level than more generic models in health. I won't include information or talk more about this, but there's information on our boot camps here within the slides. I've also provided here the links to that system science page at NIH, as well as to a number of other resources we've placed online, which include complete curriculums for those interested in working on building up models in health from past boot camps. This is one I ran at North Carolina State University and University of North Carolina last summer, which is particularly rich. I would highlight this link here, because it contains videos, slides, exercises, example models that are linked together. So in other words, for a given video, there'll be a link to the models that were built during that video or that were run during that video. And so by following this particular curriculum, you'll have recourse to many types of resources that were featured in the curriculum. I also maintain a page of specifically on agent-based modeling, which include a variety of lectures, tutorials, links to an inventory of example models, and some small sort of Khan Academy-like video nuggets. Also worth real emphasis here, however, for the sake of community, of linking in with others, are a set of conferences. And Ross may have others that he wants to add to this list, but I'm listed here some that I found quite helpful. One of them is this one in which I'm quite heavily involved these days, Social Computing Behavioral Cultural Modeling and Prediction. SBP 15 was the version that was offered this year. Next year it's SBP 16. It's offered in DC at the UC-DC Center, and typically has a really rich mixture of modeling and big data components to it these days. Quite accessible, great opportunity for trainees as well as for interested investigators, a really neat cross-disciplinary community, which includes a lot of health content. I'm in fact helping to sort of build up that health presence there. But there's a lot that's been done that's quite interesting. The Winter Simulation Conference is another one that I've frequented quite a lot, and where there's normally a set of thoughtful models within the health area. It's probably the world's largest simulation conference, and again, I would say health is a very prominent feature of it. It is being held this year in Huntington Beach, California, and it's reliably in December. As Ross noted, there's an important tradition of individual-based modeling, which some people view as more or less interchangeable with agent-based modeling. but which has had different origins, namely, in this case, in economics, and has differed in some of the particulars of how the models are built, the role of statistics in model building, the role of agent interactions in model building, and it's called microsimulation. This is a technique that's very practically relevant to policy because it's used to inform much decision-making within major industrial countries, including Australia, US, Canada, and throughout Europe. Microsimulation models are used to examine health issues in many cases in terms of public health investments, but also in terms of things like pension plan adjustments. So Social Security in the US, for example. So there's a conference, Microsimulation International, that's specific to that community, but which has a lot of good discussions of modeling issues and needs. IHI, I listed here, I believe it's actually evolved in its name in its latest renditions, and I'm going to have to get the correct name when I post these slides. But it once again includes a broader set of topics, health informatics, but a big part of that is agent-based modeling or system science techniques within health. So I mentioned here. And similarly, International Conference of the System Dynamics Society is an SD-specific conference that normally includes some representation of hybrid models and agent-based models, and has quite a bit of health these days as well. And then there's other conferences which are broader, such as the Conference for Medical Decision Making and Informs, which also have significant overlap with the sorts of topics we're talking about this week, but feature much additional content. So those are some conferences. Ross, any big gaps here you think should be mentioned? Okay, we'll try to continue to update that. Thanks, Ross. So in terms of books, I've tried to list here a set of books that may be of interest to people. One of them, this first one is one I found thoughtful and worthwhile, Agent-Based and Individual-Based Modeling. This is by Volker Grimm and Steve Railsback, the folks who offer that course in Humboldt State University. And this is chock-a-block full of net logo models, but also has some very substantive material on best practices, for example, for documenting models, for communicating them to others, and sort of a division of conceptual topics, modeling topics, and specific sort of tool discussions that may be of interest. I would recommend it. I have a copy here if anyone's interested in looking at it, if you, like me, like to sort of browse through a book before purchasing it. In terms of general ABM coverage, I've also tended to find quite a bit of interesting content in a book by Rob Axelrod from here at U of M on agent-based models of competition and collaboration. This has some thoughtful chapters in it from a number of contributors, which surely focus on this issue of collaboration and competition, but some of them talk more broadly about the modeling process, about, for example, the practices of docking models when you refine a model docking against a previous version of the model in a way that can be quite general in its application. In the system dynamics area, we are fortunate to have a sort of acknowledged textbook of the field, somewhat uncharacteristically named Business Dynamics. It's by John Sterman, but it does capture a number of examples from a broad set of areas, not merely from the business literature. There's also books that are more focused on the environment side. I would strongly recommend Peter Hoffman's book on community-based system dynamics for anyone thinking about the sort of use of causal loop diagrams, participatory modeling, engaging stakeholders in your process. Peter's just an amazing practitioner and I think brings a lot of insight. Jack Venix's book on group model building is also recommended within this area. within the agent-based area, there's been a number of books that I find quite interesting, and as well as articles. These books by Josh Epstein, I think a book, a chapter, I think are really interesting perspectives on what he calls generative social science, or the generative perspective on agent-based modeling. It's kind of situating it with a certain framing of how it fits into science. And this article by Volker Grimm on pattern-oriented modeling in the Pages of Science is also, I thought, a really neat piece on sort of how we build models effectively. Now, in terms of community support, in the boot camps I've been running since 2009, and in a set of other events that are smaller scale as well, I've been struck that while training opportunities like this offer great value in many cases, confer enhanced understanding, confer a lot of the basics of the field, what's really most needed is actually more community building. It's what matters most is not what goes on in this classroom, as important as that is, but what goes on in the 6 months following this classroom or a year following this classroom. Whether the ideas that have sprouted here grow and proliferate, or whether they're starved of water and nutriment and don't fail to thrive. So we've been working for the sake of this R25 with Ross and Elizabeth and others to try to formulate a strategy which will involve going beyond fragmented events, each solitudes unto themselves in terms of the people, et cetera, to really try to build up community. And we're trying to do that in a number of different ways. My boot camps that I run have a general policy, which I'm happy to say has been widely sort of adopted, of allowing people to come with no charge for multiple instances. So if you come once, you're a veteran, you can come as many times as you want, and there's no extra charge. That actually means free meals and free transportation, but I'm willing to take the hit. And that's built up a real community of people who keep on coming back, bringing their new perspectives, insights, talk about their models, share stories of their work, reconnect with others, and discuss the challenges they're facing now with this emergent community and with new individuals who are coming. I believe this is really important to make sure that people aren't fragmented, don't go back to their office and fail to thrive because of lack of connections. So the biggest investment is something that I'll be talking about in just a minute here and demoing for the first time, which is a site, which we've built up atop a social media framework to try to link people together. But I do want to highlight a few other components. We do have a Google group, which has seen some use in terms of connecting people. People can join the group and send mail to each other, but really that's being replaced by this community site, which has a wall. You can see what's recently posted on it, of resources of different sorts. I did want to highlight, though, also the Insight Maker community. I think it's a really neat community with a lot of very visual ways of showing interactive models that can be run online in your browser. And Jeff McDonald, my colleague there, has been an amazing contributor of these insights to help build up sort of broader community interpretation of health systems issues within the context of a number of modeling approaches. So if you go here, you'll find these dozens of links about various aspects of health and healthcare that are diagrammed out in representations visually, but then also often are supported by models behind the scenes that you can actually run. And so within this sort of context, you can step out these stories that sort of discuss various processes operating within the health context. And you can actually then run many of these as models to see behavior over time associated with them. I don't have time to go into that, but Insight Maker is an up-and-coming platform that does notably support both agent-based modeling, system dynamics modeling, and it further supports multiple people accessing the same model, creating clones of it, elaborating it in different ways. So it's a platform for sharing and collaboration as much as it is for sort of hosting models. And finally, there's a thing called the Systems Wiki, which also has a nice community support available with it. So many people come to these events and leave them with the sense that, this is great stuff, but I need to find partners. Where am I going to find others who might work with me to deliver on some of the visions that I've had, during this boot camp of what's possible during this event? And I've mentioned some of these components. The community site is what we're really aiming to sort of have as a center point for these things. But if I were you, I would also talk with the instructors, Ross and I, because we might know modelers within our social networks. Each of us have quite extensive social networks who might be interested, or modelers in training who might be interested in taking these on. And we might be able to link you up with conferences, or in some cases with multidisciplinary student teams. To give an example, each year I run an undergrad and grad modeling course where students are looking to partner with real-world stakeholders to help work with them towards delivering on modeling projects. And there's a lot of opportunity for linking up those teams, either in my classes at WPI or other institutions, with folks like you who might have ideas from the health side that you'd really like to explore. I think, and then finally, for those of us like Elizabeth and I, and Ross, with his collaboration with some students, there's opportunities for things like internships, co-ops, or theses that might be of relevance in terms of tapping into networks of trainees that might be able to partner up or otherwise help work with you on projects. Okay, so enough on that front. Any questions regarding this sort of issue of resources and sort of keeping the momentum going after this event? Questions from people? Resources that you don't, or needs that you don't see addressed? Other gaps? Yeah.
So you talked about the NIH.
Yeah. OBSSR. Yeah.
Those who are currently researchers that they graduated or they're faculty.
Yep.
So are there any funding opportunities that you know of that are for students, maybe those who are looking on the dissertation or those who are graduate school?
That's a great question. That indeed was one of the focuses of Institute for System Science and Health, to provide actually free attendance for trainees at that level. I'm certainly aware of opportunities at the postdoctoral level, and I've participated, and I'm sure Ross has got many more, in sort of K award grants, sometimes as part of what are called kangaroo grants. These, what is it, K99 R00 or something. It's an alphabet soup. I don't really understand. Ross, can you speak, because I'm also a little bit more tied in with the Canadian funding environment than many of you would be. Ross, do you have any comments on sort of doctoral level or student support opportunities?
I'm not aware of any NIH very specifically aimed at that level. However, still the case, despite the growing amount of curricular materials and our efforts to improve this space with this course, that the primary way people learn to become modelers is by sort of an apprenticeship model of working with someone.
Exactly.
And it's quite easy to arrange that if you get connected to the right people as part of normal research NIH grants. Often they include line items for
just so grateful for Ross for making that point, because it's probably the most glaring gap in these slides. Really, when it comes to becoming really skilled and certainly a virtuoso, but even just to develop really solid capacity in system science, it really is. I don't see any replacement for the apprenticeship model, regrettably. Regrettably, I say, because it's a model that's harder to scale. But it is a model that's successful, that has repeatable cases where it's conferred great benefit. But it does require networking and requires tapping into the expertise of people like Ross, who are real hubs in the community, to sort of link you in with others who might be leading initiatives in this area and have support on the student support side to allow you to kind of serve in an apprentice role. Yes.
I know your boot camp served this role somewhat.
Yeah.
But, I think the opportunity we've all had for almost one-to-one kind of tutoring
right.
is really, really valuable. And have you given any thought to sort of a cohort model of, we are one cohort that's gone through this training and doing some follow-up?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're working towards, and part of this is a vision. Maybe I'll use this to transition to my slides, because time is a fleetin'. I'll transition to my slides on that will sort of demo this